INFJs often move through life with a calm, understanding, and patient outward appearance. But underneath that calmness, they carry a level of emotional, mental, and intuitive weight that most people never see. On the outside, they may look gentle, thoughtful, or reserved. On the inside, they are constantly processing emotions, ideas, patterns, possibilities, and the feelings of the people around them. This inner world is rich and meaningful, but it also makes life harder in ways most people do not realize. Many INFJs struggle quietly. They rarely complain or show their stress. They hold themselves together even when they feel overwhelmed. Because they do not want to burden others, they keep their challenges to themselves. This makes people assume they have everything under control. The truth is very different. Life often feels heavier for the INFJ because they feel more, think more, and expect more from themselves than most people do. INFJs also tend to hide their struggles because they fear being misunderstood. When they try to explain their feelings, people may tell them they are overthinking or being too sensitive. When they share their deeper thoughts, people may not know how to respond. Over time, the INFJ learns to keep their inner world private, which creates even more pressure. Another challenge is that the INFJ personality type is rare. They often feel different from others, even when they are surrounded by people. They see the world through a deeper and more intuitive lens, which makes normal life feel confusing or emotionally draining at times. While others move through life with simple decisions, quick conversations, and surface-level interactions, the INFJ is experiencing everything with more intensity. This video explores why the INFJ secretly has it harder. It explains the hidden struggles that most people do not notice, but that the INFJ feels every day. By understanding these reasons, INFJs can feel seen, and others can better understand the depth behind the INFJ's quiet strength. Reason number 1. The weight of their inner world. INFJs live in a deep and active inner world that is constantly moving. They analyze emotions, observe patterns, imagine different futures, and reflect on past experiences. Their mind rarely rests. Even when they appear calm on the outside, their thoughts are full of meaning, questions, and emotional detail. This inner activity makes life richer, but it also adds pressure that most people cannot see. The INFJ mind connects everything. They think about how their choices affect others, how people feel beneath their words, and what future outcomes might happen based on small decisions. They try to make sense of life through intuition and insight. This can be powerful, but it can also feel heavy. Thinking deeply every day is tiring, especially when the INFJ cannot turn it off. They also carry the emotions of others. When someone shares a problem, the INFJ feels it strongly. They think about it long after the conversation ends. They try to understand how to help, what to say, and how to prevent further pain. Their inner world becomes filled with the emotions of the people around them, not just their own. Even good intentions become emotional weight. Another part of this difficulty is that INFJs overthink almost everything. They replay conversations, question their decisions, and imagine all possible outcomes of a situation. Their mind tries to predict or prevent future problems. This constant reflection can lead to stress, because the INFJ rarely feels like they have done enough or said enough. Their imagination also contributes to the weight. INFJs imagine ideal worlds, ideal relationships, ideal futures. They picture how life could be if everything aligned. But when reality does not match these visions, the INFJ feels disappointed or confused. They live partly in the real world and partly in the world inside their mind, and balancing the two is challenging. This inner world also makes INFJs feel isolated at times. They think and feel at a level that others may not understand. When they try to explain their thoughts, people sometimes react with confusion or disbelief. This makes the INFJ hide their inner world even more, which increases their loneliness. Life becomes harder because the INFJ carries all of this quietly. They do not expect others to fix their inner struggles. They simply hold everything inside while trying to function normally. But the weight of deep thinking, emotional awareness, intuitive insight, and silent reflection builds up over time. INFJs eventually learn that they need moments of solitude to manage this weight. Silence, nature, calm spaces, or creative activities help them process everything. Without these breaks, their inner world becomes overwhelming. Understanding this part of themselves helps INFJs protect their peace and prevent emotional overload. Reason number 2, heightened empathy means hidden burnout. INFJs feel the emotions of others deeply. Their empathy is not just noticing when someone is sad or stressed. It is absorbing the emotional atmosphere around them. They sense tension in a room, sadness in someone's expression, or frustration in someone's voice, even when no words are spoken. This sensitivity helps them connect with people, but it also makes life harder because they carry emotional weight that is not theirs. When someone is hurting, the INFJ feels it almost as if it were their own pain. When someone is anxious, the INFJ absorbs that anxiety. This happens automatically, without effort. The INFJ may leave a social situation feeling drained without knowing exactly why. Their empathy makes them open to the emotions around them, and they often absorb more than they can handle. This leads to burnout, but the burnout happens quietly. INFJs rarely show when they are overwhelmed. They smile, listen, and continue helping others even when they feel exhausted. They do not want to let people down, so they hide their fatigue. On the outside, they look calm. On the inside, they feel emotionally overloaded. Another reason this burnout stays hidden is that INFJs do not like asking for help. They do not want to appear weak or burdensome. They try to handle their emotional weight alone. When they need rest, they quietly disappear instead of explaining what they are going through. People often assume the INFJ is fine because they keep functioning. But inside, the INFJ may feel tired, emotionally empty, or overwhelmed. INFJs also attract people who need emotional support. Their calm presence makes others feel safe opening up. They listen without judgment, and they offer comfort with kindness. While this creates deep relationships, it also exposes the INFJ to emotional stress. They become the person others turn to during difficult times, even when the INFJ is struggling themselves. Over time, this creates emotional exhaustion that few people notice. The INFJ's empathy also makes conflict difficult. Even small disagreements feel emotionally heavy because the INFJ feels both sides of the situation. They understand the pain behind harsh words, the fear behind anger, or the sadness behind silence. This awareness makes them try to fix conflicts quickly, but doing so drains them even more. Another source of burnout is emotional responsibility. INFJs often feel responsible for how others feel. They try to keep peace, prevent tension, and support people who are struggling. But this level of responsibility is too heavy for one person to carry. The INFJ ends up feeling tired and depleted because they are managing emotions that do not belong to them. The hidden burnout becomes visible only when the INFJ reaches their limit. They shut down, withdraw, or go silent for long periods. They need time alone to recharge and separate their own emotions from the emotions of others. This solitude is not a choice, it is a necessity. Understanding this helps the INFJ protect themselves. They learn to take breaks before burnout hits. They learn to separate their feelings from the feelings they absorb. They begin to set boundaries so they do not carry every emotional burden they encounter. This shift allows them to continue being empathetic without losing themselves in the process. Reason number 3. Perfectionism and idealism create unseen pressure. INFJs often hold themselves to standards that are far higher than what anyone else expects from them. They want to do things the right way, treat people with care, make thoughtful decisions, and avoid mistakes that could hurt others. Their desire to do everything with intention and depth creates a constant pressure inside them, even when the world around them appears calm. This perfectionism comes from their inner values. INFJs want to live in a way that reflects what they believe. They want to be honest, responsible, and meaningful in everything they do. But trying to live up to these values all the time is exhausting. They feel guilty when they fall short. They worry when they make even minor mistakes. They spend a lot of time thinking about how to improve, how to do better, and how to avoid disappointing anyone. Their idealism adds even more pressure. INFJs imagine how life could be. They see ideal relationships, ideal futures, and ideal outcomes. They picture worlds where people treat each other with kindness, where values guide decisions, and where meaning is found in everyday life. These visions are beautiful, but the gap between their ideal world and the real world creates quiet disappointment. INFJs often feel like they are failing, even when they are doing more than enough. They compare reality to their inner standards instead of comparing themselves to what is reasonable. When they accomplish something, they quickly think about how they could have done it better. When they help someone, they wonder if they said the right thing. When they make progress, they notice the flaws instead of the growth. This unseen pressure affects every part of their life. In relationships, they feel responsible for keeping peace and avoiding misunderstandings. At work, they push themselves harder than needed because they fear letting people down. In personal growth, they set goals that demand too much of their energy. Another challenge is that INFJs hide this pressure well. They look calm, thoughtful, and collected. People assume they handle everything easily. They rarely show how much they struggle behind the scenes. Their perfectionism becomes invisible, but the emotional weight is heavy. Over time, INFJs learn that perfection is impossible. They begin to accept that mistakes do not make them unworthy. They realize that their efforts already go beyond what most people give. When they stop chasing perfect outcomes, they start feeling lighter. They still care deeply, but they allow themselves more room to breathe. This shift helps them protect their mental and emotional health. Reason number 4, feeling different or misunderstood. INFJs often feel out of place, even when they are surrounded by people. They think in ways that others do not. They feel emotions at a deeper level. They see connections and patterns that others overlook. This creates a sense of being different that starts early in life and continues into adulthood. Many INFJs describe feeling like outsiders. They do not fully fit into social circles. They are often the observers rather than the center of attention. They may have many acquaintances, but only a few people they connect with on a deeper level. This sense of being different can make life harder because they always feel slightly separated from the world around them. Their inner world is complex, but the world outside expects simplicity. When INFJs try to express their deeper thoughts, some people misunderstand them or react with confusion. When they try to share their emotions, some people call them sensitive or dramatic. These reactions teach the INFJ to stay quiet about what they truly feel. Another reason they feel misunderstood is because they communicate differently. INFJs prefer meaning over small talk. They look for sincerity rather than casual interaction. They ask thoughtful questions and expect honest answers. But many people are uncomfortable with this depth. They assume the INFJ is overthinking or reading too much into things. INFJs also struggle with being rare. Only a small percentage of people share their personality type. This rarity makes it hard for them to find people who naturally understand them. They often feel like they have to explain themselves more than others. They adjust their behavior to fit the situation, but they still feel like they do not fully belong. Feeling misunderstood affects their relationships. They may feel unseen even by people they care about. They may feel lonely even in a group. They may hide important parts of themselves to avoid judgment. Over time, this leads to emotional isolation. They feel connected to people through empathy, but disconnected through identity. The INFJ often carries this feeling quietly. They do not want to make others uncomfortable by pointing it out. They accept being different, but the emotional strain remains. They want someone who understands their heart, their thoughts, and their vision without needing long explanations. When INFJs find people who truly understand them, they feel relieved. The pressure to hide disappears. They feel safe being honest. These rare connections make life easier and more meaningful. But until they find them, the sense of being different makes the INFJ's journey much harder than it appears. Reason number 5. Difficulty saying no and protecting their energy. INFJs want to help others. They want to be supportive, caring, and dependable. But this desire creates a major challenge. They struggle to say no. Even when they are tired, overwhelmed, or busy, they feel pressure to be there for the people who depend on them. Saying no feels like letting someone down, and that thought weighs heavily on their mind. This difficulty comes from their empathy. INFJs can sense when someone feels disappointed or upset. They feel the other person's emotions almost instantly. This emotional connection makes it hard for them to refuse a request, even when the request drains them. Rather than choosing what is best for themselves, they choose what keeps the other person comfortable. Over time, this leads to exhaustion. The INFJ becomes overloaded with responsibilities, emotional weight, and expectations. They agree to tasks they do not want to do. They listen to problems when they have none of their own energy left. They help people who rarely help them in return. Their day becomes filled with obligations they did not want but felt pressured to accept. Another issue is that INFJs rarely ask for help in return. They do not want to inconvenience others. They believe they should be strong enough to handle things on their own. This creates a cycle where they give constantly but receive little support. Their energy drains until they reach burnout. INFJs also struggle with boundaries because they do not want to appear selfish. They want to be kind and understanding. But the more they avoid boundaries, the more people push their limits. Some people take advantage of their kindness. Others assume the INFJ never needs space. Some rely on the INFJ for emotional support without giving any support back. The INFJ often hides their exhaustion. They continue saying yes, even when their mind and body are tired. They do not want anyone to notice they are struggling. This makes their life quietly harder because they carry responsibilities that other people never see. The turning point comes when the INFJ starts saying no without feeling guilty. They learn that protecting their energy is not selfish, it is necessary. They begin setting limits, even if it feels uncomfortable at first. They choose connections that respect their boundaries and distance themselves from people who drain them. Learning to say no changes the INFJ's life. It gives them space to rest, grow, and reconnect with themselves. It allows them to help others without losing their own balance. This lesson makes life easier, but until the INFJ learns it, saying no is one of the hardest challenges they face. Reason number 6, their need for meaning over shortcut solutions. INFJs cannot live on surface-level answers or quick fixes. They need purpose behind their actions, depth in their relationships, and meaning in the path they choose. While many people are comfortable with simple explanations or easy solutions, INFJs look for something deeper. They want to understand the why behind everything, and this need often makes life harder in a world that prefers convenience over truth. Their need for meaning influences every part of life. When they work, they want their job to matter. When they form relationships, they want emotional honesty and real connection. When they set goals, they want them to line up with their values. But life does not always cooperate. Many people are satisfied with shortcuts. They choose the fastest path instead of the right one. They focus on appearances instead of authenticity. This mismatch leaves the INFJ feeling out of place and frustrated. INFJs also struggle when things do not make sense to them. They cannot ignore problems or pretend everything is fine. Their mind pushes them to seek answers, find clarity, and solve emotional or logical puzzles. When a situation lacks meaning, they feel stuck or restless. This creates pressure that others do not understand. The INFJ may look calm, but inside, they are trying to figure out what feels wrong and what needs to change. Another challenge is that INFJs cannot fake interest. If something feels empty or pointless, they lose motivation. They cannot pretend to enjoy shallow conversations or pursue goals that conflict with their values. This honesty makes them feel disconnected from environments that focus on trends, status, or speed. It also creates tension when others expect them to follow along without asking deeper questions. Their need for meaning also makes decision-making heavier. INFJs think about long-term impact. They consider how their choices affect people, values, and their own personal growth. While others make quick choices, INFJs spend time reflecting, planning, and analyzing. This thoughtful approach is powerful, but it also slows them down. They feel pressure because they cannot simply choose the easy path, even when it is offered to them. INFJs often feel misunderstood because most people do not look at life through the same lens. When the INFJ asks deeper questions, some people think they are being difficult. When the INFJ wants more purpose, some people think they are overthinking. This makes the INFJ feel isolated in their search for meaning. With time, INFJs learn to accept that they are wired to seek depth. They stop apologizing for wanting purpose. They choose people and places that appreciate their thoughtful nature. They discover that their search for meaning is not a flaw. It is a strength that guides them toward a more fulfilling life. INFJs carry challenges that most people never see. Their deep inner world, strong empathy, high standards, sense of being different, struggle with boundaries, and need for meaning all create a quiet weight they carry every day. On the outside, they may appear calm and controlled. On the inside, they are navigating layers of thoughts, emotions, and questions that make life more complicated than it looks. These struggles do not make the INFJ weak. They make them strong in a different way. They show that the INFJ is thoughtful, caring, and aware. They reveal a personality that wants to live with intention, grow with purpose, and connect with others genuinely. By understanding these challenges, INFJs can give themselves patience and compassion. They learn to protect their energy, accept their strengths, and create boundaries that keep them healthy. And for the people who care about them, understanding these hidden difficulties helps them show support, kindness, and deeper appreciation. The INFJ may have it harder in many ways, but they also have a unique ability to bring depth, empathy, and meaning into the world. Their journey is not easy, but it is powerful, and it shapes relationships, experiences, and lives in unforgettable ways.